Here we go, week 6. 4 down, 2 to go, almost there. Can't believe it. I'm already talking about paper 3. But let's get that out of the way, and then we can start talking about all the other things. I feel like I'm staring up. There we go. Okay. Let's see, what do I want to talk about today? The grading status. Paper 2. Actually, I want to congratulate everybody because this very rarely happens, but both with paper 1 and paper 2, 100% of the students turned in the papers. So that's amazing. So I thought that was a pretty cool fact. So keep it up. You're going to be like record-setting students in my book. I'm going to talk about paper number 3, so the search formula, because it has to deal with the reading that you're doing for this week. And so I'll explain that in just a little bit. And then there are a couple other things this week. You have the critical reading and writing. You have a couple different little scenarios, I guess you would say, to respond to. So that's in there as well. Okay, let's talk about paper 3 first, the search formula. Again, same information that I'm taking. It's right on Canvas, so it's no different than what you're seeing. It's due Saturday, August 16th, which is technically the last day of the semester for the university, for the summer semester. I can't believe. Are you guys ready for fall yet? Because I am not. I am super behind. But do not tell anybody else. I'll be having some late nights in my future. Anyway, side note. This is due Saturday, August 16th. By midnight, same old, you're used to that already. Document design, 12-point Times New Roman or Calibri, same thing that you had for paper 2. You will have to pay attention to the citations this time because I am asking you to do some additional outside research that will be really incorporated into it. I should say, let me write this for my little notes here, the percentage of the final grade, it says 16, but it's 14 because remember I changed, I changed the grade for the, I had originally forgot to input the grade for your responses to the logical fallacy content questions and your logical fallacy philosophical or deeper meaning questions, and so I rearranged some of the point values, so this is worth 14 percentage points instead of 16, so just a 2 percentage difference. All right, 3 parts to the assignment: gathering sources, analyzing each source using the search formula, which you'll learn about in Chapter 7, and the informative essay. All right, so part 1. In Chapter 7 of Weird Things, there are several different topics that are discussed at length, and these topics are homeopathy, intercessory prayer, UFO abductions, communicating with the dead, near-death experiences, ghosts, conspiracy theories, and climate change. Yes, these are ridiculous topics, but that's part of the fun of our book, right? How to talk about weird things. For this first part of the assignment, you're responsible for gathering 5 sources about one of these topics. So you're going to pick a topic from that list and then find 5 sources about it. That one topic you'll analyze in the second part of the assignment. Use to find sources that have a very specific argument or hypothesis. It'll make the analysis part much easier because that's part of the search formula. You know, is that it's like trying to figure out counter hypotheses. I'm going to get the exact page so we can kind of go through it. Consider alternative hypotheses. So if you find something with a very specific argument or a very specific way of saying something, that's good because that'll help you as the author try to say, okay, well, this is a different way. What would be some alternative ways of thinking about this? So rather than just finding somebody just talking about it, like, oh, I saw a UFO in the air. No, you want something that has like maybe an explanation of what that means or maybe a theory of why that would happen, something along those lines. Your sources may be gathered from the type of sources listed below. Apply your knowledge of credible sources, which you should have learned in English 111. Because we're dealing with topics that have a wide variety of opinion, use your best judgment about the source's reputation. So the different types of sources, and you have to use one type of each source. So you're going to have to get 5 sources, and you need 1 of each of these. A news report, an academic journal article, a book. It can be a chapter from a book. It doesn't have to be the entire thing. A magazine, and a website. So those are the 5 different types of sources you need. I will say, when I say website, you can, obviously you're going to find the academic journal article online. That doesn't count as your website. That counts as your academic journal article. The website would be just a random web page. But let me know if you have any questions about any of the sources or searching for them, or if you're like, I don't know if this is really a good one, just shoot me an email. All right, so that's part 1. You're going to find 5 sources. Part 2, analyze each source using the search formula. And I know the book gives this like stupid acronym because it's like they're really stretching here to try to figure out how they can spell a word. So 1, state the claim. There's the S. E, examine the evidence for the claim. The C, they have that weird, like they consider alternative hypothesis with the A, and then rate according to criteria of adequacy each hypothesis. So they're kind of stretching it, and the number 4 for the R, the C, and the H. The acronym is a little bit, BS, but whatever. That's what the search formula is. So figuring out what the claim is, examining the evidence for the claim, considering the alternative hypotheses, and then rate according to the criteria of adequacy each hypothesis. So that really just means you're going to say, is this a viable argument? If so, why? If not, how come, why not? So each step is discussed in detail in Chapter 7, which you're reading for this week. Make sure you refer to Chapter 7 as you are analyzing each source. For each source, you must include a write-up of how you applied the search formula to it. And this is really going to be extremely similar, almost identical. In fact, it is identical. This is such a long chapter, and I'll explain that in just a second. To the evaluating these claims on page 289. So it has all the arguments here, and so you're going to, read through that scenario. You're picking 3 of them, and you're going to read through that scenario and apply the search formula. What you're doing in that exercise is exactly what you're doing in paper 2. So you're just going to find your own sources this time. So you're going to find your own sources, apply the search formula for each source. All right, so 5 sources. For each source, apply the search formula, and then each response explanation, is about 150 to 200 words. So for that first part, for all 5 explanations, it'll be, in the range of no more than 1,000 words-ish. That's, approximately 4 pages, I think, double-spaced, so that's not terrible. Be sure you include a full citation for each source. I know a lot of you, and I recommend this to my students too, use like Citation Machine, or is it Son of Citation Machine? Microsoft Word has a really great and easy citation program. So if you just want to use that, do it. It saves you time. In my mind, it's like a calculator is to math what these citation machines are to English papers. I don't know. It's rainy. I have no idea what that means from making up dumb scenarios. Okay, got that. Part 2. Part 3 is the informative essay. So once you have all the 5 summaries and you've applied the search formula to each of the 5 sources, then you're going to write a short informative summary. An informative essay. So after your summaries, you will write a 3-page informative essay about the topic you selected. So again, you're using that same topic that you found the sources about. You must use all 5 sources in your informative essay. So that it's kind of tough because it's only 3 pages and you have to use 5 sources in there, so you have to be pretty clever about not only how you word things, but also how you incorporate some of those sources. What I don't want to see in the paper is huge chunks of quotes. I don't want you taking up oh, perfect, here's a half-page quote. I only have 2.5 pages to write. No, I want you really to try to incorporate it, do your best to try to summarize the argument that you're looking at and incorporating that into the informative argument and informative essay. Your informative essay should be written for an audience of knowledgeable peers. Remember, you're going to pretend that your audience will not know as much as you do about this topic, so you will need to write it in a way that is understandable to a wide audience. So we think about it in this way. You have one topic, one's in an academic journal, the other's in a magazine. They're going to be both written very different ways, right? The academic journal is going to be full of jargon. It's going to be written for people who are in the field and really know a lot about that topic. But on the other hand, the magazine article will be more generalized. It'll be probably easier to read. It'll be shorter. It'll be, It'll probably have a little bit of humor at some point. You know, academic journal articles aren't very funny ever. So there's very different, you know, styles between the two of them. So you're thinking about kind of writing towards a magazine audience. So you want to think, okay, you kind of write a little more generally, explain things a little bit more with like layman's terms, that mindset. Okay, your informative essay should include a detailed description of the topic. So tell me about UFO abductions. Suggestions on how to interpret this topic. So that might be the inclusion of those hypotheses that you looked at during the search formula summaries. What ongoing research, if any, is currently happening? So if any of the sources you found are pretty recent or have some good indication of like, oh, you know, there are currently people doing research on X, Y, and Z, that's where you would include it. There might not be, and that's okay. And then any other details that your audience would find helpful to understand the topic. So if you think, okay, what do they need to know about UFO abductions? You might think, you know, how many have there been? Or how many people claim to be abducted by UFOs or something like that. So you would put a number in there. You think that would be helpful for the audience to contextualize the information. Also, remember to use in-text citations whenever you borrow information. So you're going to put like the little parentheses, the author name, and the page number. So you always have to put that in-text citation anytime you use those sources. Again, things that, you know, that we get used to in English 111. An informative essay teaches the readers about a topic. Your goal in the informative essay is to explain the topic thoroughly, without bias and with credible sources. So you're really just teaching somebody about that topic. Oh, my phone's going off. Once your reader is finished with your informative essay, the reader should have a good grasp on the topic, or at least enough to have an intelligent conversation about the topic. So that's what you want to think, that if you put yourself in place of the reader, they read your informative essay, they're like, oh, I have a better idea of what a UFO abduction is now. I get, you know, maybe there's some research going on about it. I have an idea of, like, the scale of it. And I feel, you know, I could probably talk about it now if I were to be like, hey, you know what, I read this really cool magazine article about UFO abductions, and this is what it's all about. You know, you want to give your readers that sort of confidence after they're done reading your essay. So that's the paper 3, final paper of this semester. What? So that's exciting. What I would like you to do for your weekly response, tell me what you're going to write about. Tell me the topic, because you have to pick it, because that determines what you read this week. So you need to pick it right away. Tell me what you're going to write about one of those topics that are listed on the assignment sheet and in Chapter 7. And speaking of the weekly response, I want to give a shout out to Jenna Grant, who has the best infomercial that she found, which is hilarious. And you should all Google the Better Marriage Blanket. Just gonna leave it at that. Have fun. Because it's hilarious. Anyway, those all your infomercials really gave me a lot of good laughs this week, so I thought that was a really fun one. So thanks for the fun. Finally, I do want to mention, I said earlier that you're only reading the section you're using for P3. Chapter 7 is like a bazillion pages long. I think it literally is like 90 something. You're not reading the entire thing. You're only reading, let me get there, the first part, like the first couple pages that tell you about the search formula. It explains out the search formula in detail. So that's pages 220 to most of 227. So you're going to stop at homeopathy, unless that's the topic you pick. But after that, it has all the different chapters, or all the different sections for the different topics that are in our paper. So here's, you know, that's the section homeopathy. Here's a section UFO abductions. You know, it goes on for about probably 7 or 8 pages each one. That's why you need to pick the topic that you're going to be using for this paper. So I only want you to read that beginning portion, 220 to most of 227, and then only the part about the topic you're using. So that way you're not overwhelmed with reading, and it's more focused, and you're going to get a better idea of the topic that you're choosing. If you're not sure of a topic of that list that you want to use yet, you know, you can kind of skim through it, or get an idea, or, you know, do some quick Google searches to kind of get familiar with what these mean, because they might be really unfamiliar. They are strange topics. Some of them are very controversial. And so that'll give you, you know, some ideas about what you might want to write about for this paper. So once again, the reading, Chapter 7, pages 220 to most of 227. Stop at homeopathy. And then pick the topic that you want to write about for paper 3 and only read that section in Chapter 7. Cool? Good. Got it. All right. That's it. I have to get to grading because I know you guys want those papers back. I'm going to be posting the sample 3 papers right now, actually, right after I'm done with this. Those will be up before this video is up, so, you know, whatever. All right. Let's do this. One more week. I got one more weekly update. Gotta make it a good one next week. Anyway, all right. See you guys.